moment in our life. And I believe that that moment when you've had to overcome, the moment you've overcome that, that adds to your strength to help you continue on throughout life. So today I decided to share a story when I became a single mom. So in the beginning, I moved out the house, thought I was doing it, had a good job, told my parents, you know what, I'm moving. I found me an apartment. I'm living in a luxury style apartment. I'm making good money. I'm modeling on the side. Can't nobody tell me nothing, right? I got my own apartment, my own car. I'm like, I'm Miss Independent. So get pregnant. So my mom tells me, you know what? This is going to change everything. Modeling is over. Like, you can't do that and do your job and take care of a child and a lot of other things that I was involved in at that time. So I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I can do anything, right? Because this is what my parents taught me all growing up. You can do anything. Don't let nobody tell you nothing. So didn't work out the way that I thought it would work out, needless to say. Take a long story short. So now I'm pregnant. I'm a single mom. The relationship didn't work out. And I'm going about my regular day. You know, I signed up for school, so I'm trying to, you know, get my degree so that I can move up in the current company that I was working in because they was going to pay me tuition reimbursement. So going about my daily routine, go to work, not a good week, you know, come home. Well, I had to pick up my daughter, so my routine was I go to work, I get up in the morning, get my child ready, drop her off at daycare, I go to work, and then I would leave work and go to school. Meanwhile, my parents picking my daughter up, taking her to daycare for me. And then they pick her up, I leave work, go to school. By the time I get out of school, it's nighttime, so it's probably about 10, 11 o'clock. Go to my parents' house, pick up my child, go home, just so we can go to sleep, wake up, do it all over again. Well, this particular day, I get home, go to my parents' house, pick up my child as normal, go home, I get home, flip the light switch, lights don't come on. Now in this moment, I'm thinking to myself, this is a down point for me. I've been trying to do everything, go to work, get my degree. I'm doing everything that I think that I need to do in order to be successful, in order to be accepted by my parents when they said, hey, when you move out, you're telling me that you're independent, that you don't need us anymore. Like this is a high expectation for me, right? But in the midst of me feeling like I got my life together, I started to reflect back on where things went wrong. So now I'm a single mom. I'm getting no help from my child's father. I'm getting payday loans. It's to a point to where they were taking over half of my check because I got direct deposit, right? You get a payday loan, they pull the money out of your bank account, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can only work with what's left. In this time, I'm also doing hair. I'm a kitchen stylist. Don't got a license, but I'm doing hair to make ends meet. So now I can't even do hair because I can't have nobody come into my house and I don't have no gas and electric, right? And then to make matters worse, I'm not getting help from my child's father, and I'm getting her ready for bed and she ain't got no Pampers. So now I'm like, oh my God, like this, I don't want to call my parents because I'm Miss Independent. I don't want to tell them that I am in trouble, that I need help, because I don't want to be judged by my parents. This is my mindset. Not saying that they were going to judge me, but this is just what I was thinking in that moment. So all I can think of is I got to make sure before I drop my daughter off tomorrow to my parents, she's going to have some Pampers in this diaper bag. Because if she don't have any Pampers, then they're going to question me, and I'm going to have to tell them why she doesn't have any because I don't have any money. So I'm sitting in the middle of the floor in the dark, and I'm rolling up my change. Now I've done this since a little kid. My parents got me into this habit to constantly save your change in case of an emergency. So I'm rolling up the change because I got to have Pampers. And I'm constantly thinking about all the things that has gotten me to this point to where I had it all together at one point. I had money in the bank, I had a savings account, I did everything my parents told me to do. Why am I so broken right now? That was my mindset. Like, I am broken. This is my low point. And I was fine, you know, I'm like, in my head, plan B, what's the plan B? What's the plan B? Okay, let's get this money together so that I can make sure I get her Pampers tomorrow. You know, I'm gonna go in and see if I can do some overtime. Like, that is always my mind shift, is shifting to plan B. I usually don't sit in my broken moment long. And for the first time in my life, I had a breakdown, and that breakdown came when my daughter sat next to me and started rubbing my back and said, "Mommy, it's gonna be okay." In that moment, I made a decision that I would never be there again. I would never be here. I would never feel like this. I would never have my child in darkness again. And so I always tell people, when a lot of people come to me and they say, "What keeps you going? Like, what keeps you motivated? Why are you so strong?" I would not be an entrepreneur. I would not be a strong woman today. I would not be any of that if it was not for my child. Because my firstborn was always my why. It was an unplanned pregnancy. It was something that everybody told me it was going to change my life for the worse. Like, you're not going to be able to do this. You're not going to be able to do that. Your child takes all your money. Your child does this. Your child does that. And I always said, like, I'm going to make it work. I'm going to make it work. And in that moment, I felt like everything that everybody was telling me, and the reason why I got pregnant, and the reason why I was a single mom, that it was not going to work out, that I was going to struggle, that I was going to be this and that. In that moment, I was like, were they right? And a lot of times we second guess ourselves. We want to look at ourselves and say, I got it all together. I'm all here. And the only thing that will change that feeling is when something don't go according to plan. And we deal with that throughout life. When we have a plan, we got it all laid out, and then a monkey wrench get thrown, and now all of a sudden that plan has been altered. And so then we feel like, oh wow, this plan didn't go like I thought it would go, and so maybe I just need to just give up and start over. And I always say, I said this recently in a group of mine, that sometimes the plan will change, it will shift. But that does not mean that it's over. That does not mean that you take that plan and ball it up and throw it away. You take that situation and you look at that situation and say, how can I make sure that this does not happen again? What is the lesson in this? One thing that my parents always told me when I left the house was, everything happens for a reason. And I just said that to you, didn't I?
Yes.
Everything happens for a reason. So why is this happening? How can I take my current situation, in my darkness, in my brokenness, how can I take this and make another shift to better my life? So everything that I did after that, making the job change, making sure that I was able to get something that was going to pay for my schooling so I could finally get my degree. Because I hopped from school to school, trying to figure out what was working best with my schedule with me having a child. And never once did I say, oh, this child is holding me back. That child was always my driving force, because I want my child to have everything. I don't want my child to need for nothing. I will go without so that my child can make sure that she has what she needs. So the firstborn is always the most important thing, whether it's your first business, whether it's your first child, whether it's your first endeavor, whether it's your first car, your first apartment. Something got you to that point. When you got those keys to that first apartment, something was in you to make you say, I'm going to go out and I'm deciding to be independent, and I'm deciding to get this apartment, and I'm deciding to live on my own, and I'm deciding that no one is in control of what I'm doing and what my life is going to be but me. And you have to have that driving force in you, even when things are not going right, to tell yourself, because we don't always have motivating people around us, right? We don't always have a mentor. We don't always have an accountability partner. So sometimes we have to look in the mirror at ourselves and say affirmations and take self-care for ourselves and say, I got this. I can do this. And there's nobody or nothing that's going to stop me from getting to the point where I need to be. There were other instances in my life where I lost my whole salon. I just got a stylist. This person is dependent on me to have my doors open when it's time for her to come and service her clients. It's out of my control, but I am responsible for her making sure she makes her money that day. And then boom, something happens, and now I have to close my doors. That is not something that I've ever experienced before. But in my mindset, I'm thinking back to this particular moment, this particular story that I told y'all. Everything that I go through, because there's going to be many fights. Everything I go through goes back to that same moment, because I believe that, and the moment I'm talking about is when I was sitting on the floor rolling up change. For some reason, out of all the things in my life, God has placed this memory so clear in my mind for a reason. Because he always wants me to refer back to this moment when I felt my lowest. If I can overcome that, I can overcome anything. Mm-hmm. Because nothing will ever be as bad as that. My child don't remember that moment. But I remember looking into my child's eyes and how it made me feel in that moment. There's always something in your story that you can refer back to when you are feeling like you cannot go any further, when you are feeling like you are down, when you are feeling like you are out, when you are feeling like no one cares, when you are feeling like you have no support. There's a moment in your life that you might not want to remember. You might be trying to forget it. But you remember it, and it's a vivid memory for a reason. That is your strength point. It is not your broken point. It is not your down point. This is your strength point. This is the point that God wants you to continue to see every time you're faced with something that is hard for you to face. Use that to fight.